I noted here. .513 starts the discussion of major funds and what those are. So if you look at 514 and 515, right, you're given what these headings might look like, okay, and what should be put there. Okay, so again, you have to determine, is it a major fund or not? And in this case, the problem actually gives you, it says these meet the major fund criteria. So you really just have to decide what statement do they go on and how. How are they listed? Okay? So, let me make this bigger for you. So for A, it says, what column headings would the county need to present in its governmental funds statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance? So you look at the governmental funds, right? And the ones that they listed as major. So the special revenue fund is a governmental fund. Capital projects fund is a governmental fund. Then you always have to have a general fund column, because your general fund is always going to be a major fund. Okay? Then you'll aggregate the other governmental funds, so that'll be a column, and then you'll have a total governmental funds column.
So it's probably really simple, but it says that the enterprise funds C and D are major funds. Why wouldn't they be on that first one?
Because they're not governmental funds.
Because they're enterprise funds.
Yes, correct. Right. So it's asking you to make a differentiation here between the governmental funds and the proprietary funds. Okay? So you have to make that distinction, and then you have to put them on each one. Because if from this chapter, if you remember, it talks about doing the governmental fund statements and then doing the proprietary fund statements. And then in the next chapter, in chapter 14, it talks about what adjustments you have to make in order to combine those funds. Okay? Why? Why do we have to make adjustments to combine the funds? To give everybody a headache, okay? Another reason. Why do we have to combine the funds? Why do we have to make adjustments to combine the funds? I'm sorry.
Because they may not go into the right category under their current heading.
Okay? They may not go into the right category because they are accounted for under different methods, right? You have the modified accounting, the modified accrual method for government accounts. That is it's more along the lines of a cash basis accounting, right? And then for enterprise funds, you have more of probably what you're accustomed to, the accrual accounting. Okay? Just like you would have to make adjustments between cash basis and accrual, you have to do the same thing here. And that's what chapter 14 is all about. It's about making those adjustments. Okay? So, for instance, things in the general revenue fund that have been counted as expenditures, they now have to be converted to expenses. So what portion of that expenditure, which is a cash outlay, is actually an expense, right? So if you remember in your governmental funds, if you bought a capital item, you made an expenditure for capital outlay, right? An expenditure for capital outlay in the accrual method doesn't exist. There are no expenses for capital items. They become assets, right? So if you buy a truck, it becomes an asset. It never hits expense. So you have to make those adjustments, and that's what we'll do in chapter 14. Okay? So that's a long way of answering your question, Jackie. These are governmental funds. These are proprietary funds. And then we'll combine them in chapter 14. Okay? So in the same way that we had separate columns for the major funds here, we do that for the proprietary funds, major fund, enterprise fund C, enterprise fund D. The other enterprise funds that aren't considered major because of the threshold tests, right, are aggregated together. Then we have totals, and then you have your internal service funds. Okay? Questions on that one? So it's really just a classification question. Okay?